Hello, everyone. Happy Easter. It's a special holiday weekend edition of the Baseball Talk Radio Show. My name is Rich Baxter, and I'm joined by my longtime broadcast partner and great friend, Mr. Gary Mack. How are you, Gary?
I am great, Mr. Baxter, and happy Easter to you and yours. And it's a little chilly day, but at least we got some sunshine, and the baseball season is well underway. And really had kind of our first, um, you know, big event, I guess you might call it. Friday, it was Jackie Robinson Day, and of course, that's the day. To me, it's the most confusing day on the ball field because everybody wears the same number. Even the announcers get confused. So,
Yeah.
but here in New York, we had a big thing as well, Rich. We had the unveiling of the Tom Seaver statue at City Field, and it was quite the event. Very touching. It was a great. It's a great statue, and many years late in being erected, but it's there now, and I'm hoping to get a chance to go see it soon, but we'll see what happens with that. But lots of stuff to talk about. I mean, baseball season's underway.
Yes, it is. And as you said, yeah, a long time coming for that statue. Congratulations, Mets fans. And those statues, I got news for you. They take a long time to build.
Oh,
They take a few years just to come together from design, knowing what happened with Harry Callis, the fans all band together, the Phillies broadcaster of many years after he passed away. Donations poured in for a statue because the team didn't pay for that, the
right,
fans did.
right.
But it took years for it to get from design point to finishing point. And are the fans allowed to stand near that statue? I saw it roped off for the unveiling and all, but I wonder if fans will be able to like take their picture near it.
I'm not sure. I think they will. Of course, I don't know if they're going to erect something. If you remember, Shea Stadium had the big home run apple. City Field has, the home run apple, but it's a newer one. When they moved to City Field, they upgraded it and put a new one. And they had the old one. They couldn't figure out what to do with it, and they put it outside of the stadium, and it was the smartest thing they ever did because it became a meeting place. Everybody would say, "Hey, I got the tickets. I'll meet you by the Apple."
Hmm.
And but they have that raised up so you can. There's like it's like a brick and a concrete wall, and you can sit on that. And then there's a little bit of space, grassy area, and then the apple is there, and they let you walk right up. You can jump up on the grassy area and go right up to the apple. Um, don't know if they're going to do the same for this yet. As you said, I only saw it the one day, and it was roped off and everything for for the festivities. I would imagine because they said it's going to become like a meeting place. I'll meet you at the Seaver statue. So
Yeah.
I hope that they do. It would be a nice touch to allow fans to get near it. Um, and I hope that it's the first of. There's a couple other statues I'd like to see. I mean, Joan Payson, the original owner of the Mets, should have a statue. She was so instrumental in bringing National League Baseball back to New York, and really instrumental in the game. One of the first female owners uh, in Major League Baseball, and was very. I mean, she was. I think later years, Marge Schott came along and kind of gave a bad left a bad taste in everybody's mouth for female owners, I guess. But Joan Payson was really extraordinary life. I'm waiting for somebody, and I'm hoping that my friend David Krell, an author who's written somewhat extensively about Joan Payson, hope he's thinking about writing a biography of her, and I hope that he does because uh, really an extraordinary life and a huge baseball fan. I mean, she was there uh, like every game, practically every game, and rooting and she was a society woman. She had lots of money and very involved in charity and just a remarkable person. I think she should be there too. They should have a statue for her and of course Gil Hodges now in the Hall of Fame. There should be something maybe more for him and uh, well, we'll see how it progresses. You don't push these things too far, but I think they they're behind the Mets a little bit in their history, and they're starting to embrace it with this owner. Um, like you said, Philadelphia has Harry. What's his name?
Harry the
You know,
K, Harry Callis.
Harry Callis, and do they have other statues in Philly as well?
Yeah, yeah, they have Steve Carlton's out there on one of the gates. They're normally figured out near one of the gates, the entrance gates. I met my Phillies Talk broadcast partner for many years in the past couple years. I met him for the first time, and he said, "Meet me at the Robin Roberts statue." So I was like,
Yeah, there you go.
but I had only went into that gate maybe once or twice over, 15 years, 16 years, 17 years, 18 years that Citizens Bank has been Park has been around, and I'm like, I don't remember a Robin Roberts statue. So I did a couple times around the stadium, and I reconnected with it because I had only went into that gate maybe one other time, and
Right.
I think it was maybe to buy tickets or something like that because there's a huge ticket window there. So I was like, oh, there's the Robin Roberts statue. So,
Well, I think they're I think they're terrific things. I think that it is good to embrace your history, and hopefully now the Mets will do some more with that. And they're behind other teams. Pittsburgh's got Mazeroski and Stargell and I don't Clemente, I think, and Cincinnati's got a Pete Rose and a Joe Morgan, I believe, and I'm sure Johnny Bench statue. So you've got to embrace some of
your
your
history.
history. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So. And as we said, Major League Baseball embraced their history with Jackie Robinson Day on Friday, 75th anniversary of that, and terrific ball player and a nice honor for him every year.
Yeah, yeah. It's amazing how these traditions carry on every year. And as you said, even today, Easter Sunday, the teams are getting together to play baseball. And it's a magical time. It's a milestone point in the season very early. I was just talking to someone yesterday, and he's like, you can't even look at the schedule till around Memorial Day, which is more than a month and a half away. So, this is one of those fun times. The ballpark, probably see some Easter bunnies here and there uh, at the broadcast, and it's a, it's great. It's great to embrace what used to be. Your youth as an Easter kid on Easter Sunday morning. You wake up, and there's candy there and stuff like that. I tried to recreate that for my granddaughter, bringing her an Easter basket, and her stepbrother one yesterday with some treats in it. So,
Uh,
hope everybody has a great Easter weekend.
yeah, I'm certainly with you on that. And Rich, we've had some history already made this year. In baseball, it's really incredible. We keep doing this every year.
Yeah, it's amazing. Third time that this has happened since the late 1800s, and that's happened just a couple days ago. Joe Madden, Angels manager, intentionally walked Corey Seager in the fourth inning with the bases loaded. Now, how many times have we sat back at home and thought that our manager should do something like this. I know I have.
But usually you would do it if you have like a few runs lead there. He did it and actually put his team behind in the game, and then I think the next guy up got a hit or something, so he was 2 or 3 runs behind. Now they did come back and win the game, but boy, what a risky move! But he probably figures I got enough money in the bank. What are they gonna do?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it was that outrageous. I know you don't usually want to give up a run, but in his estimation, it was, I don't want to give up 4 runs. I don't want to give up
Right.
a home run. I don't want to give up the game, so to speak, at that point. And how many times have we actually sat back and said, I wish he would have just did that? So this is amazing. There was some pushback on it, of course. Angel center fielder, uh, the
Mike
star
Trout.
center fielder Mike Trout was befuddled during the game, just like I was there trying to remember his name. But he was like he couldn't understand it. I guess to him, he's never even thought about that. But I think it was a sign of respect to Corey Seager, and he didn't want to see him break the game open. How many times have we seen this where managers don't assert themselves into the game, and they become non-entities, and they suffer for it sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, and like you said, it doesn't happen often. It did happen. I think the last time, if I'm not mistaken, was early 2000s. I think it was Buck Showalter was managing the Arizona Diamondbacks, and he walked Barry Bonds with the bases loaded because he didn't want to pitch to Barry Bonds for the same reason. He would take the 1 run instead of 4. So it's been done before, but I think he was up in the game though. The Diamondbacks were, but Joe Madden always the innovator and always trying something different. So I was kind of surprised, but not surprised when you find out it was him. You don't get too surprised by that.
Yeah, just the third time in the last 75 years that a hitter was walked with the bases loaded. And as you said, another one Madden did in 2008 when he was
Yeah,
with the Tampa Bay Rays. And, uh, he spurred his team on. They rallied, came back, they won. Read an article here that's Aaron Boone's reaction to it. And he says, I'm going to have to pick Madden's brain on it and see what he has to say. But, no manager would go out on a limb like that because he went out on a limb, for harsh criticism and, just things that normally don't go on in a ball game. But
right.
I applaud it. How many times have we seen times where managers don't make any decision and they lose because of it?
Yeah, I mean, again, a wacky decision, but it paid off in the long run that they came back and won. But only Joe Madden would do something like that in this day and age.
Yeah.
And it is a strategy. I mean, let's be honest. As you said, he'd rather give up the 1 run than the 4 or 3. And it almost backfired on him, but they came back and everything's okay. But it is a strategy, and sometimes you have to do something totally against what the book says to do, and that was totally against it.
Yeah, yeah. Something that you don't see, well, only the third time in 75 years. We may
Yeah.
never see it again for another 75 years.
Or you might see it a lot. You never know.
Now, Jake Arrieta in the press had some things to say, and he's been taking to Twitter quite a lot since he's been sort of retired now. He's sending out tweets every day on games. In fact, he said on this one, he said, walking in a run already down by one with a fresh reliever in the game, you are better off pulling the pitcher and optioning him immediately because you have no faith in his ability. Seager is an incredible hitter, but what is happening to baseball? Question mark. So Jake Arrieta going out on a limb um, against his former manager in Chicago.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're going to hear all kinds of opinions on this, but it worked for him, so that's all you can go by, right?
That's true. So glad baseball is back. And what do we have up next on the show?
Well, we got more history, actually. Hunter Green, who is a 22-year-old top prospect of the Cincinnati Reds, pitched against the Dodgers in a game, and he unleashed 39 100-mile-per-hour fastballs, obliterating the record for the most 100-mile-per-hour fastballs that I didn't know there was a record for in a game, which was held by Jacob DeGrom, who set the record in 2021, uh, and that record was 33. Hunter Green threw 3,900 miles per hour fastballs. Now, it is a record. Is it a good record? I hope it's not one of those records that people shoot for as a pitcher because, it's throwing that many 100-mile-per-hour games, pitches in a game is, it's got to shorten your career a little bit. And um, that's the only thing you worry about, he's a kid. He could throw that hard now, but wouldn't he be better staying, holding a little bit back? And the same thing for Jacob DeGrom. Look, he did this, and he's had a bunch of injuries the last couple of years. Tightness here, a little strain here, there, and everything. And you just wonder, should he have stepped it back a little bit earlier? So, but who knows?
Yeah,
We'll never know, but
I was actually watching that game for a couple minutes there, and yeah, it seems like in the post game interview, Green said, "I wish we would have had come out with a win, but it was a really fun time." So he had a fun time.
yeah,
Pumped up, obviously, out there in L.A. They got that fantastic lineup. He probably wanted to, show off a little bit, and he could do that with the 100-mile-an-hour pitches. So,
yeah.
but as you
Well,
said,
also
mm-hmm.
it also is his hometown, so that added to it too, having his family and everybody there. But yeah, I'm sure he was pumped up.
Yeah, and as you said, I felt concerned when I read the story that, oh my
Hmm.
God, he's going to throw his arm off.
Yeah.
Hopefully that doesn't happen. But Reds reeling. They lost their fifth consecutive game out there in L.A. They're going to have a long season this year. But Hunter Green in the record books now. And incidentally, Gary, they just started that pitch tracking in 2008. So before 2008, I don't think they doted on every pitch like this.
No, I don't think so. And again, I'm not sure it's a great record to shoot for, uh, but uh, y- the problem is you might have guys that really shouldn't throw that hard, that think they can throw that hard, and they can get hurt. So that's one thing you have to watch for. Um, these guys are usually loose and easy when they throw, and if they can throw that hard easily, then I still wouldn't recommend it. I think you always try to keep something in reserve for those tough outs, and but for your health too. But we'll see. See what happens and how long a career. Hopefully, he has a long career because he looks like he's a really good pitcher, and you know, hope for his health.
Yeah, and as you remember, another 100-mile-an-hour pitcher that came out of Cincinnati, Aroldis Chapman, came to mind to me. He sowed his oats in Cincinnati.
Yes, he did, and started. It began as a starting pitcher, and then went to the bullpen. Came a top closer, and still is closing games, and still chucking it up there pretty good, Rich.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's given him an extended career, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. And Rich, San Francisco Giants made history as well when Alyssa Nakin was she's a coach for the San Francisco Giants, but she's like a guess like a assistant coach, behind the scenes coach. She was working at the batting cage for a few steps from the dugout, and I guess it was the batting cage by the clubhouse, the underground one. When she got the call, the San Francisco Giants needed her to coach at first base. She grabbed her jersey and grabbed a batting helmet and went out. And she made Major League history as the first woman to coach on the field in a regular season game when she took her spot last Tuesday in a 13-2 win over the Padres. She came in to coach first base for the Giants in the third inning after Antoine Richardson, the regular first base coach, was ejected. When she was announced as his replacement, she received a warm ovation from the crowd at Oracle Park and a congratulatory handshake from Padres first baseman Eric Hosmer. So, Rich, baseball continues to make history. Now we had a woman manage a minor league affiliated team for the first time in the regular season. Now we have a woman coach uh, in a regular game for the first time, and it won't be long before we see more women involved on the field, I think.
Yeah, it seems like a trend all of a sudden. Don't know where it came out of, but interesting nonetheless.
Yeah, well, we have a woman general manager in Miami as well, and so they're making strides, and as long as they're qualified, I don't see a problem with it. But it just does make it hard. You often you wonder, will we ever see a female professional ball player on a major league team? There are professional ball players, but I mean on a major league team, um, whether it be, I would think an outfielder or a second baseman or shortstop would probably be the best positions that we where we might see a woman first, on the field. But we'll wait and see what happens. It'll be interesting. I guess it will be. I better not say it, but it will be interesting.
Yes, it will be. As you said, you never know. Someday, we always say nay, but you never know.
Yeah, and
Well,
and if you think about it, it could open up a whole new talent area for baseball to look into.
yeah.
I don't know. Um, I can't see a woman pitcher. I don't know if they can get to the speeds to make it. I could see a second base person. I guess you'd have to call it then, right?
Uh huh. Yeah,
Uh,
everything.
or an outfielder. I could see that. Speed. and the offense would be a question mark for me, but you have to see.
Yes, you do. Well, I was talking about this the last couple shows. Get into some of our listeners and viewers here on YouTube, our YouTube show, and of course the audio, which I'm a big fan of because I don't have to be on camera. But uh, here's a lot of the listeners that we have across the U.S. 87%. Apple Podcasts make up 73% of our listeners. And I did this last week for the first time. I didn't even know this existed, or last time I did this segment. I clicked on the U.S. I see most of our listeners are in the tri state area of where we broadcast from: New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and New York. So
Okay.
very cool. With
Wow,
California
six
coming in
percent though.
sixth.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's not bad.
yeah. I got a couple listeners,
Wow,
Kentucky,
Kentucky,
Virginia. Yeah,
nice.
very cool. So yeah, we try to reach those points. Oh gosh, it'll even get
Well,
down
even
to
tell
the
you
nitty
where.
gritty. Yeah,
We're
interesting.
big in Red Bank.
Red Bank, yeah. Thanks, Red Bank, for listening. If you're over there, um, our gender split up: 80% the guys, 20% ladies listening. Thank you, ladies. And over on the right side, if you're watching our YouTube, the age group, we got a good representation of age groups. We've really
There you go.
spanned those years quite nicely, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
Really happy with that. Very nice. So I was glad to be able to bring that up this week for you. I know I've been trying to the last couple weeks, but we've been having a lot of stories to talk about. And Gary, I was talking a little bit about the K Rod broadcast, Michael K and A Rod last week on ESPN2. They made their debut, and I watched a little bit of it, but I could only stand a little bit of it. It was terrible.
I'm with you.
Did you happen to tune in at all?
I put it on briefly. I'm not a big fan of either one, to be honest, and it was not my cup of tea. I want to know what's going on, and not the chit chat back and forth. It's okay if I'm at the game and I'm chit chatting with somebody, but I don't need to hear it when I'm watching it on TV.
It was almost like the game was secondary. The game didn't matter most of the time. It was like, you know, you're there covering a game, basically, to me. But it was like, stories, old stories that weren't relative to anything today. How somebody mailed a gift to Michael K's address. Oh, I guess they found it from the Yankees, you know, PR department. He's looking over at A Rod like, what can you send me? Like, come on.
Well, I
And
think I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think that's what they're shooting for. They're probably trying to recreate somewhat the atmosphere as if you were at the ball game, or if you're at home with your buddies watching the game, you're gonna bullshit about other stuff.
beep.
And and I think that's where that's probably what they're going for. But I don't care for that kind of stuff. So
Yeah. The game audio was not mixed properly. I don't know. I tuned in to watch a game, and it was sidetracked into boring stories about A Rod. Like I don't. This shouldn't be all about A Rod. They should be there talking about the game. Oh, that was a great hit, wasn't it? So and so's up. He's batting, 335. There was none of that practically.
yeah, yeah.
And it was
Well,
like you were in a,
that's
a sealed room with these two characters talking, and the game was playing silently in the background. It's like, I don't know. I just, not what I expected.
yeah,
Give me a game where they're talking about the game, given their,
right.
you know, expertise on that kind of stuff, and I'll watch that. I'll listen to it. Give me a story now and again, but don't make that the whole theme of the show. I'll
I,
try it one other time, but I'm basically done with it after the first one.
and Rich, I think Major League Baseball's not had some success with their broadcast so far. I mean, the Apple one, I don't. Everything I've read or heard, everything, even the Mets announcers commented on it, has been negative. We talked about it here. I listened to it. I gave my opinion. I thought it was awful. It was the worst announced broadcasting game I ever heard in my life, and I have not heard anybody say otherwise. Everybody seems to it's unanimous from what I've heard how bad that broadcast was.
Well, I didn't see it live, but based upon what you said, I had to go back and I watched it. I watched about 15, 20 minutes of it, maybe even a half hour. And it just seemed like it was geared towards the Nationals, Juan Soto, um, with his stupid send us some free stuff. You
Yeah,
know, that
yeah.
was so out of the blue and so weird. Like, you're a multimillionaire ball player. You're telling Apple to send you some free stuff? I mean, come on, stop.
Yeah, yeah, really. And like you said, it was, and of course we're talking about the first Apple broad. I don't know if they did another one this past Friday. I did
They
not tune
did.
in.
Yeah, they did. It's
Um,
every Friday night, actually.
I did not tune in. It was the first one I tuned in because it was the Mets, and it was just god awful. And everything I've heard about that game has been negative. There is
Yeah.
not a anybody, and it's not. Usually you hear, oh, they were favoring the other team, and they were. Well, they were favoring the Nationals. They just kept talking about the Nationals all night, uh, and it was just bad. It was terrible. Um, they're talking like you said with A Rod. They're talking about a sushi restaurant and
Yeah.
whether or not. Oh, now that we mention it, we're gonna get free sushi there. Um, they were. I don't know. You've got your announcers in Philly. I'm sure they talk about restaurants as well, but it is totally different. They seem to. And I think it's really this is the problem with a national broadcast nowadays. They don't know the teams like the home announcers. So when the home announcers work in something else, it doesn't it fits. When these other outsiders try to do it, it just doesn't work. Because it's like it's just that they threw something in there to fill time instead of talking baseball. I don't know. I just thought it was horrible, and we'll see. We might be getting more horrible because YouTube is back having
Ooh.
a game and a game of the week on YouTube. It's going to return on May the 15th, May the 5th. They're going to do 15 games throughout the season. Scott Braun is set as play-by-play broadcaster, joined by MLB All Star Yanda Alonso as analyst. Two guys in the booth may not be too bad. And, you know, Scott Braun is on MLB, kind of knows his stuff. He's involved deeply in baseball. He's been doing this for a few years. Yanda Alonso is new as an analyst, but I heard him the other night in MLB, and I thought he was pretty good. So they may not be too awful. Uh, the pregame show will be hosted by MLB Network host and reporter Sierra Santos. She is one of the hosts of Quick Pitch. If you watch that after the games at night, she is one of the hosts with Kiera Martin, I think the other girl is. They're both new. It used to be Heidi Watney. I don't know if she's still doing it or not. And what's the other girl? Her
Kelly
last name,
Nash.
Kelly Nash. Yes.
Yeah.
Um, and she's still
Kelly
doing it. I
Kelly is
saw her one
back.
night. Yeah,
Yeah,
she's
Kelly is back.
back. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And Laura Gardner, I think, is the other one. She's doing the Apple TV. She used to do some hosting on Quick Pitch, and interestingly enough, she used to also host the NHL Network roundup show, whatever they call it.
Uh huh.
And I did find out that the NHL Network and the MLB Network share the building. They're like in the same, um,
Yeah,
you know,
they've they've been
building
intertwined for
studio.
years.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I never knew that, and so the host can go back and forth. I guess the
I
some of
used to
them.
have a follower on Twitter and somebody I corresponded with through the Phillies blog that I do, and he
Hmm.
worked for MLB for a while. I was going to
Oh,
interview him a couple times, but never got around to it. I'm not even
yeah,
sure if
yeah.
he's still with them or not, but yeah, it's quite an operation they run there, and good little outfit they do. And before we bring the curtains down on our Easter show, I just wanted to share this tweet with you, Gary. Read it just last night. It's by Philly's former player Ben Davis, and he's now with NBC Philadelphia. And he sent a tweet out last night. He's getting tired of the modern day baseball player. Here's his tweet: Spring training is over. And I'm over the quote, spring training was a sprint mentality. I'm tired of the hugs and kisses for throwing 4 or 5 innings. My goodness, can we be any softer? They all have their own chefs, strength coaches, and mental gurus. Go freaking play. And that's well said. I think these players today and the media and all this kid glove stuff, go play.
I it's a great tweet. It really is, and they do have their own chefs and nutritionists and everything else. And I guess that's not totally a bad thing. I mean, the guys used to eat back in the '60s and stuff. They'd go out and have a big steak, and now like red meat is,
A few cans of
uh,
beer, maybe.
yeah, right.
Jeez.
Verboten, but. I think there's still time where they have a couple of beers in the clubhouse. There's nothing wrong with that. Gotta rehydrate, right?
Yeah, so that's just his indication. Got a lot of support on it. Um, Amen. A couple people wrote in. Ricky Pitalico, one of them, one of his fellow ball players of that era, and people loved it.
Yeah. Well, you know, we as old timers understand what he's saying, um, but because we do what we do here, I think we also understand that the game's changing and it's becoming more specialized, and you know everything's changing. I mean, athletes are getting more into the health foods. They realize that if they eat better, they can have a longer career, uh, and things like that. And that's why they have their own chefs. And it's really it's new, but it's not that new. I mean, I can remember in the '60s, Walt Clyde Frazier, who played for the New York Knicks basketball team, he used to travel with his own food on the road, and he had wacky concoction. It wasn't like steak and stuff. It was like health food.
Uh huh.
And I think he used to even travel with like a little one burner, camping stove or whatever, and cook his meals in his room because he couldn't at those days. I guess he was a vegetarian at that point. He couldn't get it wasn't that big. There was no vegan restaurants and vegetarian type dishes, so you would order whatever you could. but he would do this himself. So this it's people have become awakened to this, and the money is such. I mean, look at Tom Brady. He's got a wacky diet that he's been eating for years, and he's what 44 now or something. He's still playing at a very high level.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Is there something to it? The game has changed, society's changed, everything's changed. So to us, it's weird. To them, it's just the normal reality, but they're still a little soft.
All right, let's go back to the 70s for our last segment of the program here. And if you're on YouTube, you'll see the graphic that I just put up. But this is by Vintage Jerseys and Hats. They go under the name at Polyester Unis on Twitter. And great thing to follow. They're always putting up vintage logos, things like that. And here they ask on Easter Sunday, which 1979 at MLB logo has the best Easter Sunday vibe? Looking over these logos from the 70s, they look pretty relevant to us, I'm sure, Gary.
Yeah, there's a now what teams happen to do is we would look at that and say, it's pretty odd that there's a lot of teams that didn't change their logos at all.
Yeah.
Of course, now teams will say, yes, we changed it. We made minor changes. The blue in our logo is a shade lighter now than it was back then. I don't consider that a change. I'm looking at the basic logo. Milwaukee looks the same. Kansas City looks the same. Detroit, I think, still uses the Yankees, the Mets. Your Phillies is different now.
Yeah. They
Big
went
time.
away. They went away from the colonial look.
Yeah. The Dodgers are basically the same. The Pirates have changed their logo, but it's still the whole idea. Cubbies are the same. Cincinnati's changed a little bit. The Giants have changed. The Red Sox is the same. The Astros have changed their logo. The Blue Jays, I think, are the same. Seattle changed the same. The Expos definitely changed their logo because they're not even in existence anymore.
Right.
Cleveland, we know, changed
Yeah.
this year. Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Yes, indeed. Well, if
I like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
like
so
looking at that.
you might want to follow them on Twitter at Polyester Unis, and they come up with uniform stuff, logo stuff throughout the season.
Wow.
Pretty cool stuff there on Easter Sunday for 2022. And Gary, I want to wish you and your family a very happy Easter and a wonderful end to the Easter weekend here.
Thank you, and the same to you and yours, and to everybody out there. Happy Easter, and be safe. Get vaccinated, I guess we should say.
Again.
And
Boosted.
Again, yes, I did. Got mine last week. My arm is killing me, and I felt lousy for a couple of days, but feel better now. My arm is still killing me.
You're out of the rotation for a week with that arm.
Yes, but I'm totally vaccinated.
Very
we didn't
cool.
get to that story either. With COVID is back in Major League Baseball. A couple of players getting it and sitting out games. So, but I think that's the way it's going to be from here on in.
Yeah, we'll have to bring that up next weekend or next week when we do the program. Thanks for listening to this one, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to our Easter special, and go out and make it a great week. We'll talk to you again next week.